Why was this an important story for you to tell? Why were these acquisitions really important to devote a book to?
Well, James, to answer that adequately means going back into the origins of the whole concept of the book. Back in 2011, when I was still at the Globe and Mail, I was tipped off that these two transactions had happened. And in fact, there was one personality, Chris Newton, who was a co-founder of both these companies. Q1 Labs was sold to IBM and Radian6 to Salesforce, two big US companies. So I did a story back then. It was kind of one of those great gee whiz stories. Here in the land of cod and lumber and natural resources, here were two exercises in knowledge capital that were phenomenally successful for the time. And those were big numbers at the time. They were eye-catching numbers in the years long before Shopify, made $1 billion just chump change. And so I wrote the story, and when I set it aside, and 10 years later, some people in New Brunswick approached me and said, well, actually it was less than 10 years, about 6 years. Gord, what about a book? And I said, well, a magazine article, maybe. A book, really? These were two startup companies. And we sort of went through this 2-year kind of back and forth. And finally, somebody said, write a book outline. And I started sort of talking to some people, and I said, this is bigger than I thought. There's from a number of, one, it tells the story of technology in the last 20 years and the absolute revolution. These are vehicles for, the rise of social media, networks, cybersecurity, the path that we as a world, as a universe have been on. Secondly, they changed the attitude in Atlantic Canada very much to we can do it, which hasn't been totally realized, but there is a feeling that, in Fredericton, we can create startups that are significant. And then I began to think, I had just spent 5 or 6 years as a national feature writer for the ROB, and I'd gone across this country, and I was always running into people with aspirations who were not in Toronto or Waterloo or Montreal or Vancouver, but were in Thunder Bay, or they were in Saskatoon, or they were in Fort McMurray, and they were trying to chart a new way for these regions that have been based on raw materials and natural resources. And I said, can we do it outside, off the beaten path? Off the beaten path, I say, in quotation marks, because to really succeed, you can't think of yourself as being off the beaten path. And so I saw this as an exercise in maybe the future of Canada, examining the future of Canada as we make the transition from a resources economy to a knowledge economy. And then I wanted to take it further. What's happened? What has stayed? What has stuck among these two companies? That's a long way of saying how I got there, but suddenly I was excited by the project. And then a couple of things happened. The people are really fascinating, as always to make. And Chris Newton became this absolutely natural, wonderful guy who had been through a lot of hard knocks, both from a health point of view, and from his relationship with Q1 Labs became fractured. So it became it became the big story, and it became a great little story too. So it's a making of a book, right?